What happens when you play Path of Exile, a game known for its sheer depth and scale of content, but choose to use a randomized build on a completely fresh character with the goal of taking down all of the in-game bosses as fast as possible? Well, I don't know what happens when you do that, but I can tell you what happens when I do it. Oh, and did I mention that it's a race versus one of the most prominent build creators in the game, Captain Lance, known for his ability to whip together underused and even unknown mechanics into usable, if not downright good builds?
Hello and welcome, Exiles, to my Hexblast Trickster Miner.
Ha, well, you know what they say. Let us begin the story now. Kinda. You see, Lance and I both had a bit of a bumpy start, if you will, on our first randomized build, which was Shattering Steel Pathfinder. Holy crap, I'm dumb. Holy crap, I'm dumb. Oh, no! Move. All right, don't get trapped. No! 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 Oh.
Woolie!
No!
Stop dying! What are you doing? The race is gonna be over before we even get to the boss. You're gonna have like a year of gameplay time.
Now, you all that actually play PoE, I know what you're thinking. Shattering Steel, Pathfinder, that's not even that bad. Just go poison and bada bing, bada boom. And yeah, you're not wrong. In fact, that's exactly what Lance did. I opted for crit hit-based SSF League Start scenario and all of that. But the performance of our builds wasn't the issue. It was the skill itself. I don't know how you steel skill enthusiasts do it, but man, being required to press Call of Steel every 4 or 5 attacks, a button whose cast time takes about half of a second to actually fully finish, and interrupts the gameplay pace every single time it's pressed, just feels awful. Like, totems on melee is one thing. You don't need to press them because they give you like 30% more damage. You're doing a bit of trolling if you're not dropping them. But steel skills? Again, if you do not press that Call of Steel button every few seconds, you are quite literally doing up to 95% less damage. That's basically default attack levels of damage at that point. So because of the annoyance that Shattering Steel brought, Lance and I both agreed to re-roll the build. Oh yeah, I should probably go over the rules a bit more in detail, shouldn't I? Well, thankfully they're pretty simple. Number 1, no path of building. If you play the game, you know what this means. If you don't, it basically means that we cannot use anything but our own individual knowledge of the game to plan our characters. No external help. And number 2, each death adds 20 minutes to the final time. The final time is simply measured with the /played command that tells us our playtime once we kill all the in-game bosses, and then slap on 20 additional minutes to that time for each /death. Boom! We originally were gonna do +1 hour per death, but given the reroll, well, we figured that penalty was going to be a bit harsh. 183, I think what it was. It is 125 is quick step. That's going to be a reroll. Ambush. What the heck is ambush?
That's not a skill either.
Absolutely not. All right, again. 91. Number 91 is Holy Flame Totem. I think I'm going to hit that button real quick. All right, here we go. 113. This is the real one. This is the real one. Poacher's Mark. All right, here's the real one. We're coming up. 51. Jug. Dreadbane. Here's the real one. All right, hold on. 40. 40 is the real one. Defiance. Jug. 72. All right, here we go. Forbidden Right. That's a spell you can use. You can use that spell.
That's actually something.
All right, you want to do Jug Forbidden Right?
Yeah, I think we do Jug Forbidden Right.
All right. Juggernaut. Now, if you've never played Path of Exile before, it's fine. You don't need to play Path of Exile. But what you do need to know is that Forbidden Right is a spell that consumes a portion of your character's health to deal damage. It's a big portion. And that damage can only be mitigated by probably like the rarest form of mitigation in the game. Chaos. It's chaos damage. And chaos resistance, you don't really get high chaos resistance levels until you get pretty far into the game. So the fact that it's dealing like 40% of our maximum health, maximum, not current, maximum health to deal damage, as chaos damage, by the way, it's gonna be interesting. So that I basically see that thing above the camera again. Let me redirect your eyeballs back up there. I basically just lied to you. That deaths equals 0. That's gonna move. But the blessing is that we don't actually have to use the skill. Actually, we literally cannot use the skill until we get level, at least level 28. The fact that we were literally unable to use the randomly selected skill until level 28 is a bit of a blessing, as this both enabled Lance and I to choose a leveling build. And here's another fact for you. Path of Exile has a lot of builds. Like, a lot. Too many to list. As I said in another video not too long ago, PoE has absolutely ruined every single RPG that I play nowadays because of how insane its customization is. You can quite literally pull off any idea that you have within the game's own boundaries, of course, on any character that you want to. That is some customization right there, folks. So for leveling builds, a lot of skills in PoE, well, they can be useful, but they typically don't become useful until some type of investment has taken place. Such investment can be financially through trading other players for power, or through simply spending your time leveling up and gaining more passive points to grow in power naturally. However, this challenge is also solo self-found, which means that whatever we do for power, we must do ourselves. No trading and no interacting with other players, period. Going back to the skills, certain skills perform far better than others at earlier points in the game, aka at points with less overall power, hence leveling builds. I opted to go for a tried and true Marauder classic melee using Sunder, of course, while Lance wanted to stick to what he knew and went a totally different route with fire damage based spells. One of us was going attack based while the other spell based, obviously meant that our early passive points divulged quite a bit, but for the most part we had similar experiences throughout the early campaign. Minus some wee little RNG from yours truly. Whoa! No shot! He's so mad. That's actually hilarious. Oh, he's so mad. But don't worry, PoE giveth and taketh. To be fair, I'm not even going to use this thing probably because you need to get armor from the... Oh! Okay, we might have just ran into... See, Lance, I'm going to give you all the chances in the world.
Did you just die?
Dude, the little explodey guys. I got stun locked out of my attack animation, then the explodey red guys in Merveil's
call you
cave.
more often. It's like a...
I know.
It's like a plus one death every time.
Other than that clear Sea Witch and Lance collusion, it was all smooth sailing for me, reaching and killing the Act 3 boss in roughly 90 minutes. Lance and I both agreed that the respec into Forbidden Right, remember the actual skill that we're going to be playing with, would happen post Act 3 boss, as you'll typically kill Dominus around level 30. This simply gave us a little wiggle room past a strict swap at level 28. The swap for Lance came relatively easy as he was already pathing towards spell-based nodes on the passive skill tree. For me, however, well, it was pretty rough. Again, this challenge called for no path of building, so we both had to build a leveling and actual skill tree through mental notes alone. Not a huge deal for either of us, as we both played a metric butt ton of Path of Exile. While Lance simply pathed towards spell stuff, as Forbidden Right is a spell, my thought process was, okay, I probably don't need that much damage on the tree early on, I'll just stick to HP and more importantly, regen nodes, as chaos resistance is super hard to come by in large quantities early on, and regen will be the primary mechanic that enables me to deal more damage, as the faster I regen my health, the faster it comes back to be used again in the cast. Simple, really. But I quickly found out that, as it turns out, you do actually need to spec into damage nodes on the tree if you want to deal damage. Crazy, right? And yeah, I know what you're thinking. No shit. But come on, HP and regen stuff for a skill that consumes massive amounts of your health that you would otherwise not be able to negate in any reasonable way for the next 30 levels or so? How was that a bad idea? Seriously. It was bad. I ended up dealing Quinn levels of damage throughout the rest of my first day as I struggled to keep my sanity. After the halfway point through the campaign, I decided to end my day one with the stark realization that the passive tree choices I had made ultimately meant that without some good old-fashioned instance farming, my run was all but doomed. What do you mean? I'm taking the regen down here.
Dude, you're gonna have no... What is that tree?
Dude, okay, we're trying to get up here right now. I just respect. I went over here, so I respect that.
You have no damage.
We don't need damage. You don't need damage.
You're not gonna kill anything.
Well, you don't need damage. What are you talking about? I got 2 weapons, baby. Look, spell damage, GG. Watch this damage. Boom. Boom.
Okay. Oh. What's my slash blade?
Yeah, 2 hours 18.
You're 2 hours 18 minutes?
Uh-huh.
3 hours 20 minutes. Well, you died already.
1 death? Who cares? Plus 20 minutes. Who cares? Dude, this sucks. Holy crap! I'm gonna have to.
You're gonna deal no damage though, so I'm gonna start pulling away because my tree actually has damage.
No! I committed suicide. Are you kidding again? Gosh, this build is rough, man. Oh. It's gonna be rough, man. All right, so when you kill Katava, you get minus 30% to all of your resistances. You just kill Katava. Minus 30% resistance is a lot because we deal chaos damage to ourselves. Not only is chaos resistance the hardest resistance to find, it's probably like 5 times as rare to find on gear, if not more. Like it's not gonna happen, and the values you get are way lower. So at negative 21 chaos resist, which is gonna look like this, guys. So my HP bar was taking a pretty big hit during that fight. Each time I cast, watch this. Oh. It's like half my health, man. Oh my gosh. You're at a slash played of 4 hours and 16 minutes. We have 4 deaths. I committed suicide again to Katava. It's pretty cool.
Rest in peace. That's the time I did Kitava. Mine was 415.
I would like to respect that Marauder area. You're right. I definitely trolled going over there. I thought, dude, I didn't think the Fire Res Mastery was that good. I thought for some reason it was just
Fire Res Mastery is so good.
It's crazy. Like, how is
it's
it's
so
not balanced?
Much flat early.
I for some reason I thought it was like you get damage resistance for damage over time or something like that. But no, just straight up 1 life per 1 uncapped. Since I recently started a new streaming schedule, I figured that a little bit of offline progression was in place for me in order to roughly keep pace with El Doggy. May as well just, put this up here for a second of two also, you might need it or something. Also, as I'm sure a few of you are wondering right now, what the heck happened to that tabula rasa you dropped in Act 1? If I'm having damage problems, why not just slap that bad boy on? For those of you who don't play PoE, skills deal damage primarily from being linked to support gems. The maximum number of sockets for gems is 6, so including the actual skill itself, that leaves 5 sockets for support gems, equaling a total of 6 links. Having 3 support gems linked to your primary skill is called a 4 link, and that is what you'll be using for the vast majority of your leveling experience. This means that finding a 5 and especially a 6 link at any point in the campaign is extremely lucky. And that unique item that I dropped all the way back at the beginning of the campaign, Tabula Rasa, is a guaranteed 6 link of whatever color gems you choose. White sockets accept all of the colors. But it has the downside of not having stats on the item itself. This means it's an easy solution to the no damage problem. I forgot to record it, but yeah, I swapped over to the Tabula right after getting off stream for the day and used it until, well, you'll just have to see. Anyway, during my first offline session, I dropped this nice pair of boots with high movement speed, triple resistances, and an open prefix to craft life, died, found this nasty fractured chaos res gloves, a joke of course, almost died again, proceeded to actually die again, then actually found an item to brag to Lance about. All right, so we just completed the campaign. We're going into maps. We got a pretty unethical 6 link drop right here. I need to go craft life on this, by the way. I need to go do that right now. We just alked this ring. Got some pretty good rolls. Huge chaos res on this ring. Chaos res is vital for Forbidden Right because it deals a percentage of your maximum life as chaos damage. So capping your chaos res is vital. So I'm going into maps. These are my resistances so far. My armor's really low. It's without my aura though, without determination, so it should be a lot better. It's looking pretty good, honestly. DPS is feeling good. I think the region might be a bit of a problem because I was using this ring over here that gives me 1% of all damage leached as life. Right here, 1% damage leached as life, which actually felt pretty dang good. Now we're not going to have that anymore. And I actually can drop this ring. I'll find 20% chaos res elsewhere. It shouldn't be that hard. I do need that dex as well. So I need 1 piece of gear with dex and a little bit of chaos res, and then we can maybe put this ring back on if we need the leech. Because I really think it was popping the heck off. But that's where we are right now. It's feeling pretty good. Okay, so let me do some explaining. We grinded offline a little bit. So the last time you guys saw me on stream, my tree was looking different. I had like all these passive points over here. I respec a ton of it. I still need more respec orbs. I will probably not drop this. It's a lot of points though. That's a lot of points, man. If I put in 2 points here, I can drop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 almost. But I'm not going to get 12 respecs. So I think for right now, this will be my first respec actually. Drop these 4 points, grab these 3 points plus the mastery, and I'll change the mastery over to 12% mana reservation efficiency, and then I can run Forbidden Flesh. No, what's it called? Petrified Blood, not Flesh. Petrified Blood. That's what we're looking to run. Because there's no point to not run Petrified Blood because we have a lot of regen, and low life enables us to go Pain Attunement. So we'll grab Pain Attunement for 30% more spell damage for free. And then after that, I don't know. I guess we'll kind of figure it out. I'm also only level 69, so we have a lot of leveling up. A lot of leveling up to do. I kind of forgot to record my slash played after finishing the campaign, but I remember that it was around 9 hours. 9 hours is definitely a slow time for veteran players in a league start scenario. Around 5 hours is what I usually do. But given the nature of the challenge and what build we were given, I think this was a-okay. Day 3 was a bunch of mapping. No surprise there. Mapping is the end game of Path of Exile, but in reality, it's really just the beginning of truly playing Path of Exile. The campaign, yeah, congratulations, you just beat the tutorial. Seriously, I'll just say it one more time. The amount of content and the depth of said content in Path of Exile truly is bar none in the gaming world. Sure, there may be other information dump, truly complex titles out there, but in terms of a learning to fun ratio, PoE has got them all beat. That I can guarantee you. So, maps, the beginning of the in-game content, and really just the content. Also, remember that item that I just bragged to Lance about? Yeah, it's pretty important. It's a 6th link on an item base that has not only good stats, but necessary stats. You see, when rolling for colors on sockets, the base type of the item is essential. This is because color is directly correlated to stat requirements: red for strength, green for dexterity, and blue for intelligence. Since I'm using a spell, I need a lot of blue sockets, and Forbidden Right being a projectile spell means that greens are up next. So the fact that the Saint's Hauberk base type is a strength int hybrid means that the blue and red sockets are most common. Not perfect for me, but close enough, provided a little RNG is in my favor. However, this all ended up being my favor with the strength int base, as number 1, I needed extra armor, which only strength items come with, and number 2, I needed to use the life tap support gem to be able to actually sustain using my skill, which is a red gem. Life tap was essential to both Lance and I's builds, as it removed the necessity for consuming mana to use our main skill. You see, every skill in PoE uses mana as its resource by default, and figuring out that balance between cast frequency and mana sustain is always something you have to do in a build. But since we were already running a skill that required heavy investment into life recovery, our friend Life Tap over here was calling our name due to it changing a skill's costs from mana to life entirely. Without this 6th link, I would have been struggling immensely more than I was about to. Speaking of struggling, Days 3 stream had quite a bit of it. I began the day with 8 deaths and by the end had a whopping 17. Lucky for me, Lance also had double digits at this point, so I wasn't too worried. And honestly, nothing else too noteworthy happened during day 3, so Day 4 was also an offline day and started with acquiring my first Uber Lab trial. Woohoo! A labyrinth is just a place where you get super powerful passive points, which I proceeded to then promptly throw away. It was a 4-key run too. And then, but hey, I got this sick dopamine hit. Really good item for the wrong build. I did a little more trolling, then finally on round 2, got my Uber Lab done, and sorry for the audio, I was watching a Tarkov stream. But literally directly after I finished the lab, and with that, I entered Day 5 stream was very similar to Day 3. I got a few gear upgrades here and there, leveled up a handful of times, and of course, died a bunch. But at this point in the playthrough, I was sitting on the precipice of the true endgame content, the bosses. The way that maps, the endgame, progress is by tiers, separated into color-coded categories. Easy or white maps are tiers 1 through 5, normal or yellow maps are tiers 6 through 10, and hard or red maps consist of tiers 11 through 16. How this system works is that, like everything in Path of Exile, maps will drop occasionally from the enemies that you kill as a physical item. The tier of the map that drops depends on a few factors, but mainly just the level of the monster that dropped it. For reference, tier 1 maps are at monster level 68 and tier 16s are monster level 83. Now, the cool thing is that that's the zone level of the monsters, aka the base level. Magic or blue monsters are 1 level higher than the base, and rare and unique monsters, yellow and orange respectively, are both 2 levels higher. This means that, combined with correct pathing on the Atlas passive tree, which he had the in-game content has its own passive skill tree in Path of Exile, I freaking told you this game went nutty, bro! You can progress through the lower tiers of maps quickly and sustain the higher ones quite easily. The issue is the pace at which you actually progress. Again, this challenges solo self-found or SSF, meaning that Lance and I both needed to be on the tippity top of our game, passive skill tree wise, once we broke into red maps, which he was. I was not. Despite having the crazy luck to snag a 6 link straight at the start of maps, the remainder of my progression at that point consisted largely of trial and error with different support gems and especially different passive tree points. One thing that Path of Exile doesn't do very well, and a main reason why the game is a pretty big turnoff for casual players, is the rate at which you can respec a build. In most RPGs, if you make some oopsies here and there, they aren't too hard to remedy, right? Maybe a 15-minute trip back to the town and talk to some magic NPC to reset a few talent points, or grind a few bosses out for some gold. Not in Path of Exile. Don't get me wrong, respecing is not impossible, just man, if you make a chain of bad choices on the skill tree, you are grinding, especially in solo self-found, which is exactly what I did. By the time I entered red maps, I believe I had spent 20 or 25 regret orbs on my passive tree at that point, not including the free ones that you get from the campaign. That probably doesn't sound too bad until you realize that it all occurred in the span of roughly 10 hours of gameplay. From the point I entered maps to the point I finally felt like my build was actually in a decent spot, it took 10 hours, all while progressing the endgame as fast as possible to reach the big bad bosses. Yeah, it was pretty rough. But alas, towards the end of day 5, I was at a power level that I knew would essentially be what I went into the final boss fights with. Because Lance, well, he'd already finished the race. Lance's time ended up being 36 hours and 53 minutes, but with 65 deaths equaled a grand total of a bit over 58 hours. The pressure was on and I knew it. About that power level that I just mentioned, well, let me just show rather than tell.
Release my border. Kill time to up the stakes. Defend it. Deploy imbue. Field days. Defend it.
That fight was in a tier 15 map, taking down 4 bosses simultaneously via an Atlas passive called Up the Stakes. Basically, all you need to know is that those fights were required of me if I wanted to have a chance at beating Lance's time. Day 6 was the third and final day of offline progression. I scrambled to acquire the necessary ingredients to face down the 4 core bosses. Elder, who requires 1 fragment from each of his 4 guardians. Shaper, who requires the same but with a different set of 4 guardians. Cyrus, who requires, yet again, 4 fragments from 4 separate guardians. And finally, Maven, who requires 10 fragments that drop from Giga encounters with both regular map bosses and the guardians of the previously mentioned bosses. Now, PoE has way more bosses than those, such as Aziri, who we also actually added to the challenge, but none of them can compare in scale to the big 4. Anyway, I had to take some pretty big risks in order to pull off a win given Lance's time, and risks are exactly what I took. Unfortunately, they didn't end up working, and well, I forfeit the challenge. That's right, congrats to Mr. L Doggy himself for taking an absolutely decisive victory. But seriously, he won big time. For some context, I decided to POB both of our builds at the end of the race, and Lance ended up with almost double my damage. Double. And it took him a whopping 30 minutes straight to kill Maven. Definitely the hardest boss of the bunch.
Get it out of here. Oh my word, I'm so stressed. You don't know how much I did not want to farm that again. Multi-strike! What?
30 minutes. I kind of saw that and I just said, nah. Not only was I creeping dangerously close to Lance's time at that point, I had also yet to even acquire a single set of any of the 4 bosses. I had a couple of fragments here and a couple of fragments there, as you can see with the footage, but after seeing Lance's Maven fight, I knew it was GG. So one last time, GG Lance. I absolutely deserve the FF flame that I'll be getting for the next 3 months. And yeah, that's pretty much it, boys. Solo self-found Forbidden Right Juggernaut is interesting. I may play a little more of the character at a regular pace and see what happens, but other than that, I'm putting PoE on the shelf. Until the next league here in a couple months, obviously. Thank you for watching.